Hello and welcome to Recruiter TV, a short summary of the previous month's recruitment news sponsored by the Technology in Recruitment Alliance. We start off this month with a couple of positive stories for you. NES Global Talent sold privately for £234 million. A leading UK private equity firm, Graphite Capital, has sold one of its prize assets in October. NES Global Talent was sold privately for a whopping £234 million. Graphite Capital backed a management buyout of the firm back in September 2006, which was then valued at £70 million. But since then, the firm has more than doubled net incomes and now generates 3/4 of its revenues from overseas business, with a portfolio of 32 offices, 450 staff and 5,000 contractors in 62 different countries. NES specialises in the placement of skilled contract engineers and project managers with blue-chip multinational clients, predominantly within the oil and gas sectors. There is some good news this month for marketing professionals in the UK. According to the 2012-2013 Salary and Market Trend Report, recently published by specialist marketing recruiter EMR, 18,500 new marketing jobs have been created in the UK over the past 12 months. The report states that 40% of marketing departments increased headcount by at least one over the past year. This is encouraging news for an industry sector that traditionally suffers in an economic downturn, and economists are suggesting that this news could be seen as a sign that businesses are having the confidence to invest in themselves again in order to kickstart growth. Now, are you noticeably less well off these days? Because new research conducted using wage and inflation data taken between 2009 and 2012, along with forecasts from the Office for Budget Responsibility from 2012, claims that our wages have, in real terms, shrunk by an average of £1,600 since 2009. The TUC union, who commented on the findings, predicted that real-term wage losses could reach a staggering £8,000 respectively in the years to come. They say that this is because we are only a quarter of the way through a UK's predicted 12-year decline in the true value of our incomes. If such research proves to be accurate, then the public sector support for protests held in London last year that proved to be one of the biggest general strikes for years could be just the tip of the iceberg. The Chancellor froze public sector pay until 2013 and capped increases at 1% for 2 years after that. With inflation exceeding 5% on mainstream goods such as food, petrol and utility bills, the impact on people's disposable income is having a significant effect on many people's quality of life. The TUC General Secretary Brendan Barker was quoted as saying, "The dire state of the economy has pushed down wages, and even when they start to pick up again, it will take years to undo the damage wreaked by austerity and high inflation." And there could be more bad news ahead, as price rises are imminent thanks to poor weather and bad crops. Justin King, Sainsbury's chief executive, has warned that inflation is coming back up and blames the weather during the summer months for an increase of more than 25% for some basic goods such as potatoes, wheat and grain products. The decline in the number of new public sector IT jobs continues, with the realisation that just 5% of new IT jobs are in the public sector in the UK. According to new figures released last month, that compares with around 30% of new IT roles that were in the public sector before 2010. According to the Office of National Statistics, the government now expects that the private sector can take on responsibility for making up the shortfall in employment as public sector jobs are lost and public sector IT job creation is frozen as a result of public spending cuts and the government's austerity programme. We spoke to Gary McQuaid, Strategic Director at the F10 Group, who told us that the real irony in all of this is that before the coalition government started implementing its austerity programme, the public sector had been making much more use of IT staff, with many deployed on initiatives aimed at underpinning substantial cost savings and economies of scale relating to performance and service efficiencies, the very outcomes that the government is now attempting to achieve. There are a number of high-profile government projects involving extensive use of IT contractors that have been canned over the last 2 years, including the NHS National Electronic Database, second-generation biometric passports, the ID cards programme, the Contact Point Child Protection Database and the development of new defence technologies. And finally, following a number of recent good news investments by oil and gas companies, Business Secretary Vince Cable has expressed the government's feelings towards their variety and impact for our economy and jobs markets in years to come. He commented that the oil and gas industry's immense contribution to our skills base, industrial capacity and strength as an exporter is pivotal as we rebalance our economy. He said that collaboration between business and higher education institutions is boosting the status of the UK as a driver of innovation and giving our firms a competitive edge. He said that he was pleased that BP has chosen to partner with a number of our world-class universities to find new and more efficient ways of using and generating power. Thousands of jobs and the launch of a new research centre are but two of the envisaged benefits derived from the 6 separate announcements made last month. Scottish Finance Secretary John Swinney informed us that more than half of the value of the North Sea's oil and gas reserves are yet to be extracted. That is an estimated 24 billion barrels with a wholesale value of £1.5 trillion. You have been watching a summary of this month's recruitment news, brought to you by RecruiterTV and sponsored by the Technology and Recruitment Alliance.